Argentina is one of the most iconic football nations of all time. I mean, this is the country that gave us Lionel Messi, Diego Maradona, and of course many other legends, but those two players alone are among the best to ever play the game. They also won 16 Copa America trophies, which is the most out of any CONMEBOL nation. Argentina has also won 3 World Cups. Only Brazil, Italy, and Germany have more. But did they actually earn all 3 trophies? Or were there forces outside of the game making things happen? And by those forces, I don't mean ETs or extraterrestrials in this case. I mean actual humans. Why is it that every World Cup that Argentina has won was surrounded by controversy? Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Chapéu Football, where we provide the best coverage of Brazilian football in English. And now, with this video, as you can see, we're gonna be expanding to other South American nations. Today, more specifically, Argentina. If you want more videos like this one, let us know in the comment section down below and subscribe. Alright, so today I want to talk about all 3 World Cups that Argentina has won: 1978, 1986, and 2022. And the controversies surrounding them. And don't get me wrong, I have a ton of respect for Argentina, especially Lionel Messi. Actually, maybe just Messi. I don't know if I have that much respect for Argentina. But I'm just here to tell you a few stories, present a few facts, and you can judge it yourself. Do not shoot the messenger. I'm not saying the 1978, 1986, and 2022 World Cups were all rigged for Argentina. What I'm saying is that I can't affirm that it wasn't. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below when we're done diving into all 3 World Cups. Which one of these do you think were rigged for Argentina? Which ones were not? Maybe none of them were. And no, I am not a Cristiano Ronaldo fan. I am not a Messi hater. I'm just a guy on YouTube that's very rational, that loves telling everyone soccer stories or football. Sorry, I said the S word. And I promise, I'm not going to be biased at all. I'm just going to talk about these World Cups, and I want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to drop a like in this video if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel right now. If you don't, you're a loser, okay? Let's play the episode. All right, let's start with the 1978 World Cup, right? The World Cup that Maradona was not called up because he was too young, so he didn't play for Argentina. Now, if you watched the 1978 World Cup, that's awesome, but you're old. Like, very old, but it's still awesome. So during the 1978 World Cup, Argentina was under a military dictatorship. At the time, the military dictator or president of Argentina was Jorge Rafael Videla. His time in charge had a lot of human rights violations, which I don't need to dive into in this video because it kind of goes beyond the point that I'm going to try to make. There were even calls to boycott the 1978 World Cup. And this was clearly another case of sports washing, which happens very often in soccer. And in case you don't know, sports washing is using sports to distract everyone from domestic issues, human rights violations, or political problems by hosting sporting events, buying teams to improve your reputation globally. Most recently, we've seen Qatar do that, we've seen the Saudis do that by buying Newcastle and many others. Now, there's a long history of authoritarian governments using international sporting events to legitimize their control. So this one was honestly no different. It can also serve as a way to distract a portion of the population. You know what they say, give them bread, give them circus. Now listen, I'm not here to take sides on Argentinian politics or even to do a deep dive on Argentinian history. I honestly don't care. I'm not from Argentina. This is the problem of their own country. I just needed to provide you with that context because what I just told you about the military dictatorship is going to be very important towards the conspiracies surrounding the 1978 World Cup that Argentina won, because it was also hosted by Argentina. Okay, so let's talk about the conspiracy about the 1978 World Cup being rigged. So obviously Jorge Rafael Videla, the president, and his buddies knew the importance of Argentina winning this event, distracting the population and making themselves look good globally, since there was a lot of backlash towards that government right there. So if they could interfere in any way, shape, or form to have Argentina win the World Cup, they absolutely would. During the event, there were a lot of pressure coming from people involved with a military dictatorship behind the scenes, obviously to favor Argentina. Allegedly. I want to make that clear. But it wasn't really until the second group stage of the tournament where things got very iffy. So this World Cup had the format that I'm about to explain to you. You had the first group stage with 4 groups of 4, where the top 2 of each group would advance to the second group stage. And in the second group stage, you would have 2 groups of 4. Not 4 or 4, just 2 groups of 4, where the winner of each group would play in the World Cup final. Okay, did you understand that? The first phase of this tournament had 4 groups of 4. The top 2 of each group went to another group stage. And then this other group stage had 2 groups of 4, and the winner of each group would play the final. Now, Argentina was placed in Group B of the second phase because they advanced from the first one. And in Group B, they also had Brazil, Peru, and Poland. And in the last round of that second group stage to see who would make it to the final, Brazil and Argentina were battling to see who would top the group and decide which one of the two would play in the World Cup final in 1978. So Brazil would play Poland in the last round and Argentina would play Peru. Both games were supposed to happen simultaneously at the same time. But here's the thing. Brazil and Argentina were tied in points, which means if the games happened at the same time, there would be no way for Argentina to know how many goals they would need to advance or how many points they would need to advance. And this is what they did. They obviously changed the time of the games. Yes, you guessed it. They changed the time of the games so that Brazil would play earlier and Argentina would play later. So that way, Argentina would know exactly what they needed to advance. Brazil ended up defeating Poland 3-1, which led to Argentina needing to defeat Peru 4-0 or more to advance to the final. Not an easy result. And this is what's interesting. Up to that moment, Peru had played 5 games in the World Cup, and they had conceded 6 goals total. Okay, 5 games, they conceded 6 goals. In that game that they faced Argentina, and Argentina needed to defeat them 4-0, Argentina got a 6-0 win. Yes, you can't make this stuff up. Argentina defeated Peru 6-0, and they advanced to the World Cup final to face the Netherlands. And that 6-0 Argentina win became one of the most controversial wins in sports history, as many suspected or think that it was rigged by the military dictatorship. There were conspiracies that the Peruvian goalkeeper, Quiroga, got paid, right, to favor Argentina because he was actually Argentine himself and he also had a Peruvian citizenship. So that was one of the conspiracies. Another conspiracy was that the Argentine government cut a deal with the Peruvian government worth $50 million in exports of grains. And with that, there was pressure from the Peruvian government to have their own team allow Argentina to go through. And there was also a little bit of a controversy in the final, but nothing like this Peruvian one, which there's a lot of people that believe that Peru just gave the game away to Argentina. But in the final, Argentina was allowed to delay the start of the game, messing with the Netherlands, their opponents, and their warm-up. Argentina arrived late, and they claimed that the Dutch player René van Kerkhoff had a plaster cast on his wrist that was illegal, right, a cast, leading to further delays until the padding was added. Again, that nonsense was allowed to give Argentina any possible advantage in the final because it would be very hard to rig it. And Argentina winning this World Cup helped legitimize the regime that they currently had. The biggest winners to come out, it wasn't really the country, it wasn't the players, but the military dictatorship and Henry Kissinger. Oh yeah, Kissinger loved Jorge Rafael Videla. So you tell me, was the 1978 World Cup rigged for Argentina? Yes or no? Now let's talk about 1986. The 1986 World Cup was not hosted in Argentina. It was hosted in Mexico. And that's the World Cup that Diego Maradona carried Argentina on his back and defeated West Germany in the final. Now, the final against West Germany was not controversial. That was not the issue. And this World Cup doesn't really need any historical context like the last one that I talked about, the military dictatorship. Maradona carried Argentina to glory, but in the process, the dude scored with his hand. Against England in the quarterfinals, he literally used his hand, which he called the hand of God, which anyone that follows this game knows about the hand of God. Argentina's first goal versus England in the quarterfinals was the goal that I'm talking about, the one that he scored with his hand. And that game ended 2-1 for Argentina. Now, the second goal that Maradona scored was a beauty. It was actually the goal of the century. But let me ask you this. If it was nowadays, with the VAR, the first goal would have been disallowed. And Maradona probably would have gotten a yellow card, not a red card. That would have been silly. But the goal would have been disallowed. So that could have changed the entire story of that game in the World Cup. Now, could have Argentina won the World Cup even if Maradona didn't score with his hand? Sure. The game was 0-0 with England. It could have gone either way. But the fact of the matter is, that goal that he scored with his hand was crucial to help Argentina advance and eventually win the World Cup. So, the 1978 World Cup is nowhere near as controversial as the 1986. The goal obviously should not have counted, the one that Maradona used his hand. But one could say that it wasn't really rigged, the event. It was just one mistake from the ref right there that kind of defined the whole World Cup to a certain extent. But I wouldn't go as far as saying it was rigged, but holy crap, they got one heck of a help from the ref. And that goal was a big deal because at the time, because of a war that happened, I believe was happening or happened a few years prior, there was a lot of hatred between Argentina and England. But here's my question to you. Would Argentina have won the 1986 World Cup if the hand of God goal was disallowed? You tell me. Last but not least, we have the 2022 World Cup that just happened, the most recent one. And this one is the only one that I actually watched in this video, right? I wasn't born in 1986, so I couldn't watch that World Cup. 1978, I'm definitely not old enough for that. But I watched the 2022 World Cup, and I have a lot of thoughts. Let's talk about it. Oh, and of course, if you made it this far in the video, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe to the channel right now, and share this video with your mom, dog, cat, that person you don't like, or someone from Argentina. So, the claims for this World Cup were that Argentina got many favorable calls from the ref. More specifically, penalty kicks. They had a total of 5 penalty kicks throughout the World Cup, which is the most for a team in a single edition ever. So let's go through them. The first one was against Saudi Arabia in the first game, and to me it was kind of a normal play. Like, players grab each other in the box during set pieces, and usually those penalty kicks are not called. The VAR needed to intervene, and they got the penalty. So for that first one, there's a case to be made that it was a penalty kick because the Argentine player was grabbed, but that happens all the time and they never call it. We see this happen a lot with big teams like Real Madrid, Manchester United in the past, right? These big clubs where they get favorable calls from the ref that the smaller one doesn't. And I think Argentina versus Saudi Arabia, that's what happened for this one. Was it a penalty kick? Technically, yes, but I don't know if they would have called it for Saudi Arabia. Know what I'm saying? Then they got a penalty kick against Poland in the group stage, and this one to me was embarrassing. That's never a penalty kick. Messi just kind of went for a header, and he did head the ball. And then Chesney kind of touched Messi after, and for some reason they gave a penalty kick there. Now, Messi wasted that penalty kick, so it doesn't really matter too much, and they still defeated Poland 2-0, but again, that's not a penalty kick. The one against Poland was embarrassing. Now, against the Netherlands, right, when they played in the knockout rounds, I believe it was the quarterfinals, that penalty was a super soft call. Dumfries barely touched Acuna. You could call that a penalty, but that was very soft. I would not call that a penalty, the one against the Netherlands. The one against Croatia in the semifinals was more of a collision between Julian Alvarez and the goalkeeper. I can see a strong case for both sides, where Croatia was saying that it was a foul for Croatia and Argentines were saying it was a penalty kick for Argentina. So that one to me is 50-50. Personally, I would give it a penalty kick, okay? Now, the last one was in the final against France, and people were saying that Di Maria just kind of fell on his own. I actually disagree. If you rewatch the replay, Dembele does, in fact, trip Di Maria from behind, and that was, in fact, a penalty kick. That is not debatable. So 3 out of the 5, right, were actually bad calls, in my opinion, right? Especially the Poland one. That was a terrible penalty kick. So here's what I'm going to say. The penalties I just talked about, there's almost a case for all of them to be a penalty kick. Some of them are very soft, and some of them wouldn't get called against Argentina. Besides the Poland one, I don't think any penalty kick was straight up cheating. Now, the game against the Dutch was also very controversial because Louis van Gaal, the Dutch coach, he even said that the entire World Cup was rigged for Messi to win it. And he complained a lot about the game against the Netherlands in the quarterfinals. They said that they cheated for Argentina. Now, there's no actual proof besides the fact that we could say that there were some favorable calls for Argentina, like Messi put his hand on the ball in the midfield and he should have gotten a yellow card, and that would have been a second yellow card for Argentina. Paredes probably should have gotten a red card at the end of the game with a very hard tackle, and then he blasted the ball towards the Netherlands bench. The penalty that got called for Argentina, where Dumfries barely touches Acuna, that was soft, probably should not have been a penalty kick. So it was a game where Argentina got plenty of favorable calls against the Dutch. And I can see why Louis van Gaal would be frustrated. But I would not say that it was rigged or that they just straight up cheated for Messi to win the World Cup. I think what happened in the 2022 World Cup were three things. One, Messi kind of carried Argentina throughout the tournament. Two, there were some favorable calls from the refs, which I'm just going to say those are human errors that happen very often. The refs usually favor the bigger clubs. That happens to Brazil as well, the bigger teams. And last but not least, I thought Argentina got very lucky throughout the World Cup to win it. I don't think they were the best team, but they did win. And I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. Being lucky or not, this was a legit trophy. I don't think the 2022 World Cup was rigged for Messi. And I know some of the Cristiano Ronaldo fans online will disagree with me and even here, but I'm just being honest. Again, refs make mistakes, and they usually favor the bigger side. Argentina got lucky, and Argentina also had Messi. That's why they won the 2022 World Cup. And I'm not trying to discredit their World Cup trophy, right? Even if they didn't get lucky, just looking into the big picture here, Argentina was a top 4, top 5 favorite to win the World Cup, regardless of luck, regardless of the refs. All right, so what are my final thoughts? Outside of the 1978 World Cup, I don't think the other two were that controversial. Like the Maradona hand of God, that was one moment in the World Cup. It was a defining moment, right? It did change probably the outcome of the winner, but it's just one moment, one mistake from the ref that favored Argentina, and they could have won even without that, right? And in the 2022 World Cup, yes, there were favorable calls for Argentina, and 5 penalty kicks in 8 games is a lot. 8 or 7 games right now. Actually, 7 games, that is a lot. But I don't see it as rigged. I thought it was just a few mistakes from the ref, Messi being Messi, and some luck. Now, 1978, that World Cup is very iffy. I'm not saying it was rigged, but that one, I'm not going to go ahead and affirm that it was not rigged. I will not defend that. That World Cup was very weird. That game against Peru was very sketchy. But you let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Which one of these World Cups you thought Argentina was favored a bit too much and they cheated. It was rigged for them to win it. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go and subscribe to Chappelle Football. All right? Thank you very much and have a great day.